Why is Novavax up 20% over the past week? Should I buy Novavax? Can Novavax make you rich? Today we're going to answer these questions and talk about what has led to Novavax's share price being up and if it's too late to take a position. And in the continued debate of Novavax versus Moderna, I'll discuss which might be a safer bet. Let's talk all things Novavax. Welcome to Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, where we talk about little things that can lead to big improvements in our financial and physical health. Lately, we've been talking a lot about the pandemic vaccine candidates, so if these are the things you're into, please hit that like button so I know that you're interested in me making more videos like these. Plus, it really helps me with YouTube's algorithm, so when you give this video that big thumbs up, you have personally helped me in growing this channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would love for you to click that subscribe button and become a part of our community, because, after all, it's free, and it'll make sure you don't miss any upcoming videos. And if you've already subscribed, thanks so much for your support, and welcome back. So going back over the past week, Novavax shares have been surging and are now up over 20%, and you might be asking why. The crazy thing is that there has not been any information directly related to the effectiveness of their pandemic vaccine candidate. However, there has been a lot of news that has helped to propel the stock price. Last week, during the market's big drop on Thursday, which many people attributed to reports of virus outbreaks in many states, Novavax shares held pretty steady but didn't pop like some people thought they might. By the end of the day Friday, the stock started to close higher, and then this week it continued with the momentum. So what happened? The official news started on Monday when Novavax announced that it was selling preferred stock to an investment fund affiliated with RA Capital Management at an effective price of the common stock's closing price on Friday. The result of this sale should net approximately $200 million. The market took this as a good sign because this means that RA Capital was expressing confidence in the company and its products in development. Interestingly, in the announcement statement from the CEO, not only did he mention that RA Capital was expressing confidence in the pandemic vaccine, but also its influenza vaccine programs. Now, if you watched my first video on Novavax, you'll remember that I discussed the importance of NanoFlu. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it for you. While I have yet to see data on the phase 3 clinical trial, the reports out are that the results were positive to the point that it was more effective than the current market leader. The belief is that the company will submit a biologics license application to the FDA soon. If NanoFlu hits the market, there are reports of the company having annual sales of $1.7 billion. Now that's something that would catch an investor's eye. Now last week, I posted a video all about investing in vaccine companies and talked about the small biotechs and big pharma, and one of the big factors would be if the biotechs could compete with the resources of the big drug companies. Now, with the raising of capital to go along with funding provided by CEPI and the U.S. Department of Defense, this allows Novavax to better compete and be positioned for success, which by my calculations is about $650 million from these three entities alone. Today, Novavax showed a further commitment to growth in the company by announcing 2 new appointments to the leadership team. One position will focus on PR and investor relations, which will help the company from a messaging perspective in their highly public endeavor. But the other position is what caught my eye as the company announced a new chief medical officer. What was notable for me was that the person taking this position comes from AstraZeneca, which, as you may recall, is the big drug company that is working on advancing the University of Oxford's pandemic vaccine candidate. On the surface, this would seem like a really strong move for the company. So there is a lot of positive news out from Novavax. But there still are some risks out there. The biggest being that if both the pandemic vaccine and NanoFlu do not get approved as safe and effective. Remember that Novavax has yet to bring a successful product to market. They were close 4 years ago with a drug named Resvax that ultimately failed its phase 3 clinical trial. Now this is a company that has traded in the $300 range in the distant past, but its 52-week low is $3.54. For a stock that is up well over 1,000% for the year, think how devastating it would be for the share price if both vaccines proved unsuccessful. Now, assuming reports of NanoFlu are accurate, it's unlikely that this scenario will happen. But there are other risks out there. One being that other entities could also be successful with the vaccine. In fact, it's probably likely that there will be more than one successful vaccine developed. And some of those entities like Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and AstraZeneca have much deeper pockets to work with. But the big thing is that some of these larger companies have already stated that they will release a successful vaccine on a not-for-profit basis. So in this situation, being the first to market will be critical. I'll talk more about this in a minute. However, another risk for the company's pandemic vaccine candidate that I talked about early on is the pressure from governments to keep the cost down so that it could be administered affordably to people around the world, which obviously could put a limit on profits. And today, the European Commission arm of the EU called for cooperation from global leaders to buy potential vaccines in a manner that would not leave poor countries being unable to afford the vaccine. At this point, there is no concerted effort that this will happen. However, it just shows the pressure that will be on companies to keep the vaccine affordable because of the enormity of the situation. By the way, I'm not saying that multiple vaccines or pricing controls are bad. I'm just saying that these factors are things to consider when making decisions on companies like Novavax. Before I talk about Novavax potentially making you rich, I want to talk a little bit about its main biotech competitor in the vaccine race, Moderna. At this point, keep in mind that I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not providing any financial advice for you to act on, just sharing my own thoughts. You always should do your own homework and consult with your own financial advisor when making investment decisions. Okay, so I mentioned how being first to market will be huge. In the Novavax versus Moderna debate, from all accounts, it appears that Moderna is leading the race to get a vaccine to market. Prior to Novavax's stock popping, Moderna's stock had been up in the previous week itself, also not because of anything related to the data of its trials. In fact, we still only have data on the initial 8 subjects that was widely reported on. Moderna was up most likely due to the virus outbreak reports and the news that its phase 3 clinical trial would begin in July. However, the news of the trial beginning in July wasn't really new. There had already been reports from weeks ago that this was the plan. Looking at both companies and deciding which may be a safer bet is a challenge. On Moderna's side, they are ahead in the clinical trial phase, which would put them in the enviable position of leading in the race to a vaccine. They were also named by the US as one of 5 members of the Operation Warp Speed program. However, they will also be dealing with an investigation on behalf of its investors regarding claims of unlawful business practices. I've shared my thoughts on the company's initial data release and all of the insider trading. Again, I'll post all of these links in the description for you. For Novavax, and I think it's a big one, is the possibility of a positive outcome on NanoFlu likely to come this summer. Now, as I mentioned, they've had failures at this stage in the past, but the Fast Track status designation by the FDA makes me cautiously optimistic that they may have a successful outcome this time. I feel either company is a gamble right now, again a gamble that could pay off big, but with Moderna, to me it feels like all of their eggs are in one basket, and while they have other drugs in the pipeline, none are close to coming to market. However, with Novavax, they have 2 near-term opportunities for success and need only one to pay off big. And the NanoFlu vaccine could ultimately be the more profitable success anyway. I tend to feel that if one of the companies were to be successful in developing an approved vaccine, it would be Moderna that might have the higher bounce in their stock price based on valuations and sales expectations. I think both companies have done a good job in obtaining capital for their objectives. However, I also feel like of these 2 companies that have a history of a lack of successful products brought to market, Novavax, although the smaller company, might be a safer bet due to the diversification of having the influenza vaccine out there as well. So finally, can you get rich with Novavax? Well, I would tell you if you bought them at $3.54, you could get very rich. As they say, hindsight is 20/20. The issue now is what we feel the company will earn on future sales. By all accounts, even if everything falls into place with both products, the company is trading several hundred times its expected future sales. Now, in today's market, financials and fundamentals don't always seem to matter, at least right now. What I will say is that I still feel the race for a pandemic vaccine is speculative at this point, and companies working on a vaccine will continue to have potential for significant gains and losses in their stock prices based on news of their potential progress or setbacks. I do think if everything falls into place, Novavax stock has room to run further, perhaps a lot further, based on the momentum of bringing potentially 2 significant products to market. But if any of the headwinds we talked about happen, it can make for a very bumpy ride. You really have to make sure you're willing to risk the potential downside, particularly if those headwinds turn into a hurricane. So what are your thoughts? Do you think investing in Novavax makes sense at this time? Please let us know in the comments. And again, if you enjoy videos on topics like these, please hit that like button so I know to keep making them. Also, please remember to subscribe and share with your family and friends. As always, I hope that we can all learn from each other on how to take little easy steps in making big improvements in our lives. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, have a great day.